Let's Blitzkrieg open. Welcome to the Fairly KickAss podcast. That's all anybody's gonna hear.
Yep. First thing we've said all day.
Nothing happened there in the before.
The 2 minutes and 15 seconds of not things that we said.
Just dead air. Y'all didn't want to hear it. It's just dead air. That's all.
No. Our lawyers definitely didn't want to hear it.
We have lawyers? How have they not shut us down yet?
Look, Ted works pro bono.
Oh. He is
I was
pro
just about
bono.
to say it.
Okay, so what are we doing today?
It's a really good question.
We got some new shit, don't we?
Yeah.
So a new segment, and y'all are going to have to back me up because I know I'm going to mess up some of the details of this. We're calling it Musical Confessions. I hope.
Sure.
For right this exact second, it's called Musical Confessions, which is apparently pretty easy to say.
A working title where it might change. This is a pilot. Y'all know how this goes. Y'all have been with us for some of the pilots that we've done. Some of them are great. Some of them are less great. Some of them are TRL ones, which we don't talk about. But all of them are wonderful in their own ways, even if it's the only one of this that we'll ever do. This one being called Musical Confession. So here's how it's going to work. The three of us have a confession of sorts that we are going to share with each other for the first time. As usual, we don't share anything. We don't, prep in that way. We are going to share it with one another, and the goal of the other two hosts is going to be to determine if the host is actually keeping that hot take, that belief, that opinion, actually believes that thing, or if they don't, if it's a total lie. If you're familiar with the show Would I Lie to You, essentially that format, but with musical takes. Did I do good?
I think
that sounds exactly right.
That pretty much covers it. And if it helps, why don't we walk you through this whole thing? So basically, what Zach will do is read out his confession.
Yes.
And then Jay and I will ask him questions to try to determine whether or not that is a true held belief, whether the thing he just told us is exactly what he believes in this case, or whether he's trying to pull a fast one on us.
Indeed.
We also all may have taken slightly different routes to what these musical confessions are going to be. So this could be really weird.
I guarantee we took 3 different routes.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Which makes it fun, right? Because now we have 3 different pilot episodes that we can figure out how we want to do this later. Somehow we, despite our best intents to the contrary, we actually planned.
Kind of.
With that said, do y'all want me to kick this off and then we just go for it?
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Do y'all want a timer or do you want to just go until you're done with your questions? What do you think?
Nah, let's just go.
Okay, sweet. Then I've got a little bit of preamble to lead into my belief, and then I'll throw it over to y'all and have you fire away. So, Dan, Jay, listeners, my musical confession is that the most influential artists ever to come from the illustrious continent of Europe, maybe contrary to belief, wasn't Queen, was not Queen. It wasn't Led Zeppelin. It wasn't Elton John. It wasn't Pink Floyd. It wasn't most of the very popular English acts that you would expect. That distinction goes to John, Paul. No, it actually doesn't. It is not the Beatles either. It is no one from England. In fact, the most influential artists to ever come from Europe are not John, Paul, George, and Ringo, but rather Agneta, Bjorn, Benny, and Anna Fried, a.k.a. Frida. That is the illustrious and indomitable group ABBA.
I was really, really hoping you were going to say Falco.
Kraftwerk.
1 second.
Hasselhoff.
Falco, not Kraftwerk. Kraftwerk's like bottom of the top 10.
Okay, so what we have on the table is whether or not Zach wholeheartedly believes that the most influential act to ever be spawned from the continent of Europe is ABBA.
Yes.
So Dan, we have to determine whether or not we think, because I would sort of kind of wholeheartedly believe that might be his favorite act.
That's a possibility. But we go with this. So Zach, what is it about the work of ABBA that you believe makes them such an influential band?
I think that what I really believe about ABBA being the juggernauts that there are in the global music industry, not just in Europe, not just in their native Sweden, but all around the world, is exactly that. Their native Sweden. We had so many artists, especially of the time, especially in the 60s, going into the 70s, and obviously beyond. But England was just a hotbed for some of the most successful artists of all time. In fact, if we look at the Beatles and their run, their very short 7-year run, by the way, 1963 to 1970, that's it. You had, like I mentioned, Elton John, I mentioned Led Zeppelin, the Bee Gees, the Rolling Stones, Genesis, all of these acts, these monolithic acts, released at least one album during that period of time. Absolutely insane. ABBA was not in that same kind of juggernaut of England that all these acts came from, and yet they were still a household name, and yet they were still just as successful as they were. And that, to me, is a testament to how amazing and how influential they have been on the global scale.
Oof. I am struggling to come up with like a question to ask about this one.
Is it just their success that would make them influential to you?
It is a combination of a number of things. Certainly their success from a sales perspective, 72 million albums certified sales, 150 million albums claimed. To be fair, that does not touch the Beatles, and it doesn't touch a couple of the other acts I've mentioned. However, again, this is from Sweden, where only 1 million of those claimed sales came from. So, proportionally, that would be, trying to do the math in my head, like if the Beatles only sold 5 or 6 million records in the UK, would be the equivalent of that. They sold far more, obviously, closer to 35 million. But just, that part, as well as, and I'll get into this more, I think, as we go through the questioning, but the obvious tie-in that they have with the Eurovision Song Contest, which, as both of you know, and listeners, a lot of you know, has become a global phenomenon, and in no small part due to the participation of ABBA back when they did win that that Eurovision Song Contest.
Oof. Sorry, Dan, I'm leaving you out to dry on this one.
I think I got one more. I can at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you what lines can you draw from their work that would directly influence some of the current largest artists, so to speak?
Ooh, that is a really good question. I would say that you have, kind of the classic parts of the ABBA discography, Waterloo, of course, the self-titled album from 75, Arrival from 76. But I feel like artists today would point less to the overall body of work and more to the overall breadth of work, considering the fact that ABBA did put out an album, Voyage, in 2021. That was a banger, by the way. It was a beautiful album. If I was an artist today, if I was an up-and-coming pop artist, I would look at that and say, like, if they can still get after it 40, 50, almost 50 years after their first release, and they're still putting out music, then, they can be the torchbearers for my own career. Because I'm not looking at just what am I releasing this year. I'm looking at what am I releasing 10 years, 20, 30 years from now. Like, I can still be in the game, and they're a perfect example of how that can happen. I feel bad. I feel like I picked a bad one to kick us off with. Oh my gosh.
So you would count output alone as your reasoning with that?
Output over time, yes. Output certainly, like I mentioned before, we're not talking the Beatles in terms of album sales. We're not talking Elvis Presley, although obviously he's not European. But the Beatles, like I said, 7 years. It was a legendary 7 years. I'm not going to lie, but it was 7 years. 7 years is not almost 50. That's I want the almost 50 if I'm a pop artist of today. I don't want the 7.
Interesting. To be fair, Ringo Starr put a record out this year.
Who?
Truth.
Sorry. Apologies, Mr. Starr. I know you're listening right now.
I I have an idea. Jay, is there anything you're sensing from the story he's weaving us?
So yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to call it false, to say that he's making all this up and that he's throwing all these numbers and stuff, that he did all this research just to mess with us. I am inclined to think that it's fabricated, knowing full well that his favorite act out of Europe is Aha.
Favorite is not
I know.
most influential. Yes, I will say I will give you that. ABBA is not my favorite act out of the continent of Europe. I will absolutely cop to that.
But I think if I was a betting man, and knowing Zach, if I'm a betting man, I would say that he's probably more inclined to believe ABBA is the European Kiss, as opposed to the most influential band out of Europe. So that's what I'm inclined to believe.
And a quick follow up to that: we know ABBA is not his favorite European artist because Real McCoy are German.
Shout out Real McCoy, man. Shout out Real McCoy.
I might be playing the game wrong because I tend to agree with you on your conclusion, but mostly because I don't think he went with the most convincing argument for it.
Okay. Do we have to agree on this one, or do we take a vote?
You know what? No, but I'll keep a score. So we're both gonna. So if we're both right, so we're both going with lie. We both get a point if it was a lie. All right.
Yeah.
So the real question
is,
fair. Zach, are ABBA truly the most influential band to ever come out of Europe?
The great quartet of Agneta Bjorn, Benny, and Anna Fried are in fact not the most influential act to come out of Europe. That is very obviously the Beatles. I think everyone would tend to agree with that, much as I wanted to make myself believe that wasn't true, because I really didn't want to believe that. But yeah, it was more, they ended up becoming more influential to me just because of the research that I did on them. But the Beatles are the Beatles. There's really no comparison.
The reason I said that I don't think you went with the right argument to convince us is all you would have had to say is Max Martin. If you could have made a case that ABBA lead directly to Max Martin and everything that has come out of the pop machines since then, you had me. I was totally with you then.
Because I was thinking other
might have
Swedish,
turned me around too.
Man, I had that thought too, but I couldn't think of another really strong Swedish musical act. It was Ace of Base, no. Roxette should be, but no. Rednecks, I guess. But I didn't think of production. That would have been a brilliant argument.
No love for Blue Swede?
Zero love for Blue Swede. Well done, boys. You sniffed it out with aplomb. Very nice.
Right on.
Which one would like to dip a toe in next?
I don't know. Dan, how you feeling?
Go ahead. I feel like I'm going to regret my decision, but go ahead and we'll save the embarrassment for last, I suppose.
Well, mine's pretty cringy as well. This first one I want to go with. I think it's the one I want to go with.
Nice.
So I at one point thought, and still kind of do, think that the song Africa by Toto is entirely about a man's fear of werewolves. So I don't want to give too much before you start asking questions, but that the song is mostly a desperate plea for salvation, rain coming down to cleanse the supernatural curse or something.
I do have an opening salvo for that. And
go ahead. Please go.
Jay, from where you sit as a person, where you sat, when you were younger and also where you sit today, did you have a fear of werewolves or anything similar that may have shaped your feelings and thoughts of this song?
I don't think it's a fear. I don't think it stems from a fear of I don't particularly have a fear of lycanthropy, right? I have a healthy fear of lycanthropy. Like I no, I'm just kidding. Um,
I was going with it too. It's like, okay,
no. I am a Dungeons and Dragons nerd from way back. I love horror movies and always have. And I don't like the lyrics of the song really just, that's the imagery that has always come for me as I'm listening to the lyrics of that song.
I guess the only proper follow-up then is your thoughts on An American Werewolf in London?
I mean, it's kind of funny.
Touche. Then I guess in that case, what lyric points you what lyric is the most obvious piece of evidence to you that points that direction?
Okay. So I'm mostly it's the first verse of the song, right? Yeah. There's the drums echoing in the night. Like he's searching for some old forgotten melody. And in my head, that was like, you know, like the magical something that would release the curse.
So less about like the fear of something happening at the hands of the werewolves, and more so the curation of said werewolves of their aforementioned lycanthropy.
Yeah, like I said, and so I was a kid when I first came up with it, like maybe 10, 11 years old when I first had the thought. So I'm trying real hard to remember the actual imagery that I had conjured, but like more like, I don't know if it was the gentleman himself in the song that was turning into a werewolf and was afraid of that, or if it was like a loved one that he was hunting for a cure for. One of those two things.
The gentleman being like the protagonist, like the
Yes.
first person. Okay, gotcha.
That's interesting because that turns my next question on its head. I was going to ask, is the 12:30 flight the arrival of the full moon and the trigger of that? But if you're thinking of the loved one coming in, is that is that your protagonist drop dead time? You've got to find, he had to find a cure before they arrived on the 12:30 flight, knowing that was the inevitability of the transmogrification.
You've actually put more thought into it than I probably did at the time. The idea of the midnight in the lyric, like the 12:30, like that, also that probably played into it as well. But you definitely put more thought into it just now than I ever did.
I mean, I'm just looking at the lyrics. I was trying to figure out, to narrow that down, and then you said that, and I'm like, there might be more on that line than you thought, sir.
I am willing to go ahead and put it out there that I think it is absolutely true that Dan feels that this song is about werewolves.
And if I didn't before, I may be convinced now.
Oh my gosh. That's so good. Yeah, the lyrics, obviously the wild dog, solitary company, like all that matches. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's on the nose for sure. The one that jumps out at me, it's actually two. In the first verse, where right before we lead into the chorus, he turned to me as if to say, "Hurry, boy, it's waiting there for you." The second one, though, being more interesting, where it's instead, "Hurry, boy, she's waiting there for you." And that's kind of piggybacking off of what you said, Dan, the 12:30 flight, the kind of feminine aspects to this. Is this metaphorical, or is this maybe a mate? Is this maybe a second werewolf that is, this is actually still a love song as we know and love it, but it's just love between two people that are trapped within the bodies of werewolves and not two people trapped in the bodies of humans. And now I think I've overthought this whole thing.
That's the problem. Now I think it's, but the real question is, do we think he thought that when he came up with this idea at 10 or 11 is the problem? Because that alone, to me, like, oh, well, that's exactly it. That's what that is. And now from going forward, that is what Africa is from now on, a love song between two werewolves.
Forever and ever.
And I will put forth this idea every opportunity possible. Next time this is playing in a bar that I'm in, I will talk to the first person who looks me in the eye and go, "Did you know this song is really about?"
Oh, I can't wait to spread this. Like, this is going to be our first viral thing. Has really kicked off. I couldn't be prouder of this moment.
All right. Well, now you've got to decide, though, is it a truth or did I make it up?
Oh, I'm personally torn. Like, I feel like a 10 or 11-year-old child could have this level of whimsy, this level of imagination to think that and this level of, just a lack of being able to really put, complex lyrics together. I'm going to go with true. I feel like it is absolutely possible that you, as a young Jay, did feel that this was exactly what the song was about.
I know it's uninteresting, but I think the more analysis we put into it, it was the distraction of what we actually need to be looking at. And I think I'm completely with you. I think this is true, and you could work into this reading of this song. So I'm also going to go with true.
Well, let us have it.
Jay, did you really believe that Toto's Africa is about a werewolf?
I did not.
Oh.
But I do now.
Half points for everyone.
This was something that I came up with in the car just the other day when I would like the song came on, the Spotify DJ was like, you need to hear some Toto. And I was like, okay, sure. And then I was like, hey, it's kind of werewolfy.
That was so good. You played that so well too.
Thanks.
You did, man. Somebody has seen a couple episodes of Would I Lie to You and knows exactly how to lead.
Well studied. Very
Thanks.
nice. Well, Dan and Jay were spot on. Me and Dan were spot off. So let's see if maybe we can split the difference as Dan comes up with his. Dan, go ahead and give us what you believe in or what you're lying about.
Whew. All right. Well, I wouldn't frame it that way. I also watched too much Would I Lie to You to this, and I figured it might be time for an explanation of a very long-running gag. My real disdain for Peter Cetera does not stem from a criticism of his music or his voice, but in fact, an unconscious association in my brain between him and an unfortunate sexual experience.
Oh. So this is interesting because obviously for the sake of you, like my questions are going to lead to however much you want to divulge about this situation.
I'm going to keep this as PG as possible.
Fair. Super
airing
fair.
Laundry on the air. Gotcha.
Well, me and Pete are tight, so I'll go ahead and kind of ask what I think is the most obvious question.
Sure.
Was the association because this song was playing while whatever deed or misdeed was happening?
As a matter of fact, it was.
And which song specifically, if you remember?
Glory of Love.
Of course it
was.
Now we're talking.
I mean, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm trying to think of how I want to ask questions what occurred to make this a traumatizing moment that would make you hate Peter Cetera? Like, you know what happened to make the voice be a problem?
Long version or short version?
I mean, your call. Maybe short version.
All right. I guess I could do it short as possible. A little bit of background. It would have happened my sophomore year in college, still living in the dorms. As a matter of fact, living in the dorms with your little brother.
Good.
So you at least have a physical reference for the rest of this. We had the bunk beds in the room that every room came with, but we had a bigger room. So he was able to bring his futon and like open that up, and I used that as his bed, and I got stuck on the bunk beds. At the time, I did have a lady friend who we occasionally got to know each other well, from time to time when we were bored, kind of thing.
Okay.
Right. And one encounter, for whatever reason, happened on the top bunk that day. And the idiot of me just opened a folder on my computer, grabbed a bunch of music and threw it into a Winamp playlist. And because I don't know if you guys knew I was a nerd or not, I used to divide up my music collection by the Sirius station it would have been on.
Oh,
so
that's
I
brilliant.
opened the Starlight folder, which I don't even think that's what the soft rock station is called anymore, but still, and just threw a bunch of shit on. And then got on top of the bunk, and then also on top.
Very nice.
Right? It was a break in classes, and the hall was mostly empty. Obviously, my roommate was one of those who had classes during the middle of the day. Unfortunately, another friend of ours didn't have classes at the middle of the day and was prone to just wander the halls, and she'd just gather people to like go to lunch or just do stuff. And in the process, I didn't hear her knocking on doors coming down the hallway until she knocked on mine. So I heard bam, 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 which was not unexpected, and freaked out and like went into the exaggerated push-up pose, as my partner also freaked out and went into the get the fuck off of me pose, sending me over the edge of the bed, essentially German suplexing myself off of the top bunk. And as I'm falling, the only thing my brain focused on, besides tucking your chin, was, I am a man who will fight for your honor. Bam! And when she woke me up, that was pretty permanently etched in my brain, Peter Cetera and concussions. And I've just been keeping this up now because it's been long enough. I'm like, well, I've kind of the gimmick. Like,
Okay.
If this is true, I have to forgive you because this is an entirely legitimate reason to dislike Peter Cetera.
It is, but I am struggling to gel the idea, like, because most of the complaints about Peter Cetera have been about his voice,
well, yeah.
right? Like,
Because
I get
I needed a cover story up until now, right?
right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I've kind of also always thought that his voice was more of a gentle hostage negotiation set to soft rock, but I don't know. Like, this is a fantastic story, by the way.
Yes.
Like, it's a very good story.
True or false? It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
and here's my problem. I think the story's true, but it's not why he doesn't like Peter Cetera.
I would tend to agree that the story itself happened almost exactly the way that he tells it, but either there was a different song playing or that there was just no song, and then all of the other shit just happened as it was laid out. And the hatred of Peter Cetera is due to, what'd you call him, a soft voice hostage negotiator? Is
It's a gentle hostage negotiation set to soft rock, yes.
So you're saying the statement on this card is not, you're both saying that's a lie.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yes.
say as it's written, it's a lie, yes.
Agreed, 100%.
The statement that my real disdain for Peter Cetera comes from being yeeted out of a top bunk mid-coitus is a lie. The story, as you suspected, is true. Because who else would give themselves a concussion in that manner besides me?
I would have been so disappointed if the story itself was a lie. Oh, that was a fantastic. I mean, in the moment, probably not as fantastic, but several years later, yeah.
In the moment, I have no idea. I'm sure there was noise going on, and I'm sure there was music. The last thing clearly on my mind.
Mhm.
The first thing was the concrete floor.
Oh. Oh, bravo. Bravo. Well, I think we have come then to the end of 3 very cool stories, 3 lies. All 3 of
Yeah,
us
we
are
all
full of
lied.
shit here.
We all lied, which is interesting. However, we also know who the ultimate bullshitter fuck. However, we also know who the ultimate bullshitting detector is because Jay got both of ours and he misled us as well. So
3 for 3.
we are sending him into court next time.
I think we found my game.
Yep.
Well, we will see if that game gets played again. I personally would like to. This was an absolute blast. I would love to do this again.
Yeah, I have several more of these written, so I think I'll just hold on to them.
Yeah, I have a couple ideas that are just kind of gonna hang out in the back of the brain box.
Very nice. Well, we've got some stuff on the schedule already, and we have some time to fill. So if this is something that we are going to do again, and it sounds like it is, you'll be hearing it probably within the next couple months.
Yeah.
And more importantly, also let us know if you think this actually worked. It's worth listening to again. And you can do that in all of the usual places, which I won't be telling you about because I can never remember them all. I always like just kick this to Zach because it's much easier. He might even have a card written on it somewhere.
Well, I can tell you if you do want to hear this again, or if you are digging any of the other episode types that we come out with and any of them tickle your fancy and you want to hear more of them or less of them, let us know in all the usual ways on Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. We are at Fairly Kickass on all of them. FairlyKickass.com for all of your website-y kinds of things. Obviously, this episode will not have a ride-along playlist of any kind, but we are still trying to play catch up on those. So more to come on that aspect in the very near future. In the very current future, you can always email us at fairlykickass@gmail.com if you have any questions for us and would rather keep it off of social media. Our communications will be as discreet as we choose that they'll be. You decide whatever that means. And then also, you can only get this podcast wherever you get your podcast, including wherever you're listening to this right now, as well as wherever you might listen to it at any point in the future. We'd like to know if there is somewhere that you go to, one of your podcast providers of choice where you can't find us, please let us know to make sure that we can get on there and that we can be everywhere you want us to be. That became Visa all of a sudden. I'm kind of uncomfortable about it.
Mr. Podcast Worldwide.
Mr. 30 Pod.
Oh, do better.
Any truths or lies for the people before we disperse?
I had a few that I wrote. I mean, I don't know if you want to air this, but I had a few that I wrote down that were so stupid I couldn't actually read them out loud.
Dealer's choice. Yeah, if you wanted to keep them for a future episode, like I don't want to spoil that.
Well, there's one that I'm definitely going to keep for a future episode, but I had one where I wrote that I thought for a moment for a little while in middle school that Alanis Morissette and Jewel were the same person, which is obviously
buy that. I 100% buy that.
Like, not like got their names confused once, but like believed that one woman had 2 wildly different personalities, which is obviously fake. Like that's why I was not going to go with that one. But
right.
I thought it was fun.
Well, we'll see what kind of hijinks we can get into next time. Until then, whatever they say at the end of What I Lied to You, pretend that we said it just now.